Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, World Alternative Media here, and I'm joined by Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, and I rarely agree with Jim Cramer. In fact, I wasn't even aware that he was still on television after being wrong for decades, but nonetheless, you know, a broken clock is right twice a day, as this Market Watch article says, a tale told by an idiot, and as it says, it continues, CNBC's Jim Cramer urges investors not to be fooled by new highs in the stock market. Gee, you think? Well, we're going to go into that and much, much more today. But first, make sure to hit that like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning, join our newsletter at www.iambanned.com, join us on Flote.app, BitChute, and LBRY to get off YouTube. We are leaving by November 5th of 2020. We have no choice. We have to. We don't really have any way around that. They're going to kick us off, or we leave and tell you where we're going. So join us on those other alternative platforms, as well as check the links below for ways you can pledge and donate to us, because we are completely viewer funded and entirely demonetized by YouTube. You could also find a link below for thelibertyadvisor.com, where you could become a client of Tim Picciott. Anyway, let's get into this article. As I said, a tale told by an idiot. CNBC's Jim Cramer urges investors not to be fooled by new highs in the stock market.
Is he the one telling the tale, or is he? I don't know.
Well, I mean, usually I would do the opposite of whatever Jim Cramer does, but he's not wrong with this, and it's because it's blatantly obvious, and we'll get into that in a moment. But first, it says, the S&P's new highs are a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing about the hardship of millions of people on food stamps, or the millions about to be fired from service jobs, or the homeless, or the people who are just huddled at home waiting for the vaccine, which currently feels a lot like waiting for Godot. And as the article goes into, that's CNBC's Jim Cramer summoning his inner Samuel Beckett to talk about the disconnect between equities and the harsh reality of what's going on in the U.S. economy. We've had a magnificent V-shaped recovery in the stock market, but the stock market's not a great reflection of the broader economy anymore, Cramer said. Gee, I think the S&P 500 just banged out another record high, as did the NASDAQ composite. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average still has a ways to go. And I quote, "You don't need to be a rocket scientist to figure this out." No kidding. Jim Cramer's certainly not a rocket scientist. Just look, the stocks that have brought us to these levels, they're not the recovery plays. In fact, they're the opposite. They are stocks that tend to do well because of what we call secular considerations. He's talking about digitization, shorthand for cut out the fat, as Cramer sees it. It's not classic recovery stocks, industrials or retail or banks pushing indexes to new highs. Rather, it's the likes of Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft. And I quote, "The winners in this market are the companies that are most divorced from the underlying economy," Cramer said on his Mad Money show on Tuesday. The actual economy is in precarious shape, especially now that the government's stimulus package has run out and Congress went home for the summer rather than trying to come up with a replacement. Well, the government's not going to come up with a replacement, and one of the biggest problems in the first place is the Federal Reserve just printing insane amounts of money into the stock market. I mean, it goes without saying, when you have stories like this one, as it says, over 1 million Americans filed for jobless benefits this week. It goes without saying that the economy isn't doing very good, and that the stock market is in for a rude awakening when it realizes that it's just a bunch of fake money thrown at it out of thin air that eventually is going to be liquidized and hurt the public, as it says in this Reuters article. Say goodbye to the shortest bear market is in S&P 500 history. Tim, let's go into this. You are a certified financial planner, and obviously none of what we're saying today is investment advice. It's just our opinions. But with that said, it goes without saying that the stock market is not looking good long term. I mean, I've never seen anything so dramatically, blatantly manipulated in my life. And Jim Cramer, who usually would tell you to buy Bear Stearns right before it crashes or something like that, is actually right for once. And I mean, I'm as surprised as many of you are. What do you think about what Jim Cramer is saying?
I just want to back up just 1 second, because actually I think long-term the stock market probably is a good play from, because eventually it's probably going to have some hyperbolic rise up when all the money printing goes on.
Right, long term.
Yeah, and a long enough time horizon. I'm actually frankly shocked that this is the shortest bear market in history. Well, not shocked in terms of basically shocked that it actually happened, I think is the greater shock that's here. Because yeah, February 19th was actually the day I uploaded my Anarcho talk to the interwebs over here on YouTube. And little would I think that, basically that would end up being the high, and then that we'd have this, basically, the biggest black swan we've pretty much seen in our entire lifetime happen. And then we see this complete divorce from reality where the stock market made the V-shaped recovery, but the economy didn't. Because what a lot of these, I wanted to call them TV political horrors, but what these people do on TV is they are trying to conflate the term stock market and economy. Not Jim Cramer, but a lot of people conflate those terms meaning the same. So that's why when you see all these different riots happening, and then Trump is tweeting out like NASDAQ at an all-time high, the average person doesn't care if the NASDAQ is at an all-time high. And now we're also seeing stock buybacks coming back into flavor. And another thing is the money isn't necessarily the Fed's money isn't necessarily going directly into the stock market. It's actually going directly into the bond market. And now those companies can now borrow money for next to nothing. Why do we need the Federal Reserve to buy? First off, I think Volvo was like number one, or Toyota, maybe they're tied. Daimler, Chrysler, all three aren't American companies, are top three holding Federal Reserve bond holdings. Apple, I think, was fourth or fifth in the list. I mean, Apple has, last time I checked, like almost $200 billion in cash. Why does the Federal Reserve need to help them out by buying their bonds, which their bonds could already sell for very low yields to begin with? And now they could take that money and then use it to have share buybacks. It was just announced just earlier this week that a bunch of major companies are now using that money to buy their shares back, which is insane because a lot of not necessarily those companies, but like airlines spent literally over, some of them in some cases over 100% of their free extra cash, what they call free cash flow in the stock market, went to buying back their own stock to the tune of like $50 billion. And then, we need to give them a $50 billion bailout. These people should be taking haircuts. The CEOs of these companies should not be getting enriched. And this is just a massive wealth transfer. And it's just insane what's going on. And you could see at this point, Cramer, the only, I guess, positive short term for the stock market could be the fact that at the end of these rallies, sometimes you see the biggest gains. Like in Bitcoin, in 2018 or 2017, it could have been in a bubble when it was at 6,000, but it went all the way up to 20, and then dropped down to like 3 or something like that. But now it's back up to like 11 or something. With the stock market, who knows? You could, in Germany and early 1900s, their currency collapsed. So they had the gold mark. The gold mark collapsed into the Rentenmark, then that collapsed into the Reichsmark, and then that collapsed into the Deutschmark. And now, if you own a German stock, you'd been much better off owning Mercedes-Benz in late 1800s than you would be holding on to the gold mark. And in a long enough time horizon, they're going to destroy the currency. There's three things they can save: the stock market, the bond market, and the dollar. They can really only save two out of those three. And what they're going to do is they're going to probably end up messing up the dollar because they're trying to save the bond market, which also then in turn sort of saves the stock market. I'll say all this in air quotes. But we're in unprecedented times. We've never seen every central bank around the world printing money like this. Every central bank underneath the fiat system. Well,
and Tim, that's the thing. We have we're being met by absolute tragedy worldwide. Millions are going homeless in the United States alone, or at least set to be homeless. You have all these small businesses going out of business while all these big businesses get propped up. But even a lot of the big businesses like Starbucks are dealing with a serious amount of debt burden on them, and then we're dealing with all these people who are unemployed who then can't spend money into the market, which then that leads to more places closing, and then those employees can't spend money into the market, and then the government's printing money and giving it to them, or stealing money and giving it to them. At the end of the day, we're dealing with an absolute tragedy, and it would make no sense for the stock market to do well in the midst of all of this. It doesn't make sense for the stock market to do so well when everyone is suffering and everyone is getting knocked out of their work and losing their jobs and losing their homes. So, how do you make sense of that?
Yeah, that just makes sense of it, and the fact that we're printing all this money. And if you go back to that Germany example, you had Germany obviously was not a great place to be in the early 1900s. If World War I, World War II, hyperinflations, but their stock market went from about 400 in 1911, 1912. Eventually, by 1920, 21, 22, it was like 22 to 27 million ish. And I need to just go look it up one of these days because I always quote that. But the point is, things were not going great, but the stock market went hyperbolic. The stock market is going hyperbolic hyperbolic in places like Venezuela. It doesn't mean it's great. It doesn't mean you're making tons of money if you're in Venezuela. It just means that now, your carton of eggs costs, 100 times more or 1,000 times more. And that's the eventual scenario we're getting in. But, as we are into these late stages, we know the U.S. keeps getting cockier and cockier and cockier. And they're thinking, okay, well, if everyone wants to lend this money and borrow next to nothing, then we could just keep running the printing presses. But then basically we're just giving ourselves more rope to eventually hang ourselves. Epstein didn't hang himself. But, this is... and I guess there's some new survival businesses that are coming up out of this, but outside of that, I mean, it's just this has got to be in the fact that Cramer, the best time to buy stocks was always yesterday or right now, and to have him saying that this is a tale told by an idiot, is I think, and you've got Warren Buffett even buying gold now too. Now it might not be him, it might be one of his portfolio managers, but you can definitely bet that, before you spend, $500 million buying, Barrick gold, and I'm just mentioning that because in the news, not making a recommendation to buy it because I am, under the SEC's tutelage, but I would find it hard to believe that wasn't run up the totem pole to, to Uncle Warren to begin with. But yeah, even he is now talking about inflation. He thought there would never be massive inflation in his lifetime. Yeah. Maybe not in his lifetime. He's old. So.
Yeah, and well, they also said that we wouldn't see interest rates change in 2020. That's what Powell said. Janet Yellen said we wouldn't see another crash in her lifetime, all that kind of stuff. Ben Bernanke said the economy was great, like days before the crash in 2007. So, the point is that we're dealing with either idiots or extremely evil people. You take your pick. Honestly, going forward, I think we are really moving into an era of people trying to sustain themselves individually. First of all, I do want to point out that obviously, as I said before, Tim is a certified financial planner, so you can check the link below for thelibertyadvisor.com if you want to reach out to him or become a client. And obviously, there's a lot of people that they're buying up survival gear. They're trying to stock up on and prep in a lot of ways. So a good example of that is like you order stuff like Spiz, which I'm going to give another shout out to because why not? And also, there's privacy coins coming up, Monero, and a lot of people are getting into, and again, this is just what I'm saying. I'm not telling anyone to do anything, but obviously people are getting into things like Monero, like Epic Cash, like other things like that, in order to kind of back themselves up against inevitable. It's inevitable at this point that ammo, and fishing rods, all those are going out of stock. A good example is also RVs are going out of stock in a bunch of places because people are all moving from big cities to small towns because they know something's wrong and they're trying to do something about it to sustain themselves. But the point is, people are moving into a kind of mindset of survivalism, which is how every cycle ends as we go in those circles of good and bad and good times and bad times.
Sort of reminds me of that meme where it shows, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but it says, people used to make fun of people living in a van down by a river. Now it's like a life goal. And I'm not saying it to make fun of, the van life, because that's, where things are headed, but it's almost out of necessity where it's like, hey, listen, if everything else goes to crap, well then, at least, as long as I've got myself and my van and, it can have these beautiful views, you don't have to necessarily do the traditional rat race. But, if you are in the traditional rat race and worried about, losing everything that you've worked so hard to protect, that is what we help our clients out with, because there's a lot of retirement risks that are out there. And everyone's going to have different, be in different stages of the game. So this doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, but you've got, massive inflation risk, there's deflation risk, there's the stock market going down risk. You've got the risk of, hey, you just happen to retire and then boom, it was, financial crisis the next day. They call that a sequence of return risk. The longer you live is actually, because if you retire at 65 and you die at 66, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, to quote Jim Cramer, to plan for that. But if you end up living to 106, then now all of a sudden you have more chance of all these other things happening. Another one is interest rate risk. So if you are sitting in a portfolio that have, let's say you have a 10-year bond, or even worse, a 30-year bond. Let's say you've got a 30-year bond, rates go up 1%, you got $1 million. Now your $1 million is about $700,000. Rates go up 2%. Now it's about, because of compounding, probably about $350,000. And yeah, you'll get your, $20,000 a year in interest, but after 30 years, you get your money back. Your money's not going to be worth anything. So people who are being safe in bonds right now, especially long-term bonds, you're really making a deal with the devil right now, and you really need to know the risks that are out there. And those are just only some of the risks, and all these risks are going to be exacerbated by people in government and central banks doing the worst things at the absolute worst time. It reminds me of that book. What was the book with Ben Bernanke? It was something like hard choices or tough choices, or the choice. It was something like that. But the tough choice would have been to let the companies go under, not to paper things over and then ultimately have it get much, much worse. And what really makes me mad about all this is everybody thinks that, okay, well, if it wasn't for this, exogenous event or the courage to act.
The courage to act. Oh, yeah. The courage to destroy millions of lives.
Yeah, is that in the fiction section? I don't know. So anyways, and then this guy gets paid like $300,000 to give speeches, and then I think, where does he work now? Like the Citadel, like big hedge fund or something like that, one of those massive high-frequency trading firms. But yeah, we are in an absolute rigged system, but there are ways to profit in a rigged system, or in these stages, you're really just not even focusing on profit. It's just it's preservation, but it's preservation of your purchasing power is going to be the most important thing you can do. And a lot of things that we've talked about in the past, are things that I'd still, look at doing now. And then you can, use a link below to have a free 15-minute consultation. Very soon, those will not be with me. Yeah, we can, find ways to help you out. But anyways, yeah, that's, yeah, crazy times.
Absolutely crazy times. Well, anyway, I really appreciate everyone joining us. We will get back to you with much more. If you're wondering about Epic Cash, which I mentioned earlier, which I've been really interested in lately, you can find it on the Vite wallet, VITE. That's V for Victor, VITE wallet on the Apple Store and other places. I'm mentioning because a lot of people have been talking about alternative privacy coins lately, and I've been thinking about it. And I've looked into Epic Cash, and I actually think it's really great innovation, especially utilizing Mimblewimble. But anyway, I want to get into all this much more in the future. Obviously, we got lots of videos coming at you soon, but again, we are probably going to be off YouTube soon. I mean, I think they're going to delete us before November 5th, but nonetheless, I really hope you find us on the other platforms like Flote, BitChute, and LBRY and Minds, and make sure to go there. It really takes 2 seconds. People were complaining recently in my last video that I did, saying, well, what am I supposed to do? Follow you on 3 other platforms? I'm like, yeah, it's 3 platforms. Oh, I have work to do. Okay, well, just go back every now and then. Check in every now and then. It's 3 websites. It's not going to take you all day to do. Just go to the websites. We need you guys there because the fact of the matter is we have no choice. They're either going to delete us off of YouTube and you'll never be able to find us anywhere, or we tell you, go to these sites and we'll post just trailers to the full videos on those sites, because that's literally the only choice we have here. It's not like I get to choose this. They demonetized us completely.
Yeah, unless you watch Fox News and CNBC and all the stuff that they want to push down your throats and have that all be the recommended feed, because it's not only just about us, it's about every single person that you probably watch that's not a communist is going to be taken off of here eventually. And that eventually, I mean, the eventually is a lot of it's already happened. So I don't know really what more impetus people need.
I know it's really frustrating. I put out this video and then I lost a bunch of subscribers for saying that I can't be on YouTube anymore because they're going to kick me off right away. They've already suffocated my viewership to like 1,700 views to 3,000 at the most per video on a channel with 147,000 subscribers. When I had less than 100,000 subscribers, I was averaging 30 to 40,000 views per video. And it's not about the viewership, it's about reaching people and educating people, and I can't do that anymore on YouTube. So we need to go elsewhere. On Flote.app, people like Del Bigtree, G. Edward Griffin, Stefan Molyneux, Dan Dix of Press for Truth, We Are Change. There's so many different channels that are on, obviously Sam Tripoli on Flote. So I really recommend people go over to Flote.app. I did just post the new Plandemic movie on there in full, as it's being censored in many places. You can find it in full on the @Josh Sigurdson page on Flote.app, as well as @Wham. Yeah, really good documentary. You can also find me at @Wham as well on Flote. Check those links below and fund us if you want. I mean, we have GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar. We are completely viewer funded and depend on you guys to be able to get the truth out to the masses. So we really appreciate it. Again, all those links are below, and join us at our newsletter at www.iamband.com. It's really easy to do, guys. Just put in your email and it saves the future of free information. If you care about free information, you don't have to give money or anything, but it's all about the demand of the individual. And if the individuals go to the other places because YouTube treats them badly, and insults their intelligence by saying that they know better of what you should and can watch on this platform, if you're watching this on YouTube, then it's really important that you go somewhere else. Flote.app, BitChute, LBRY, Minds, especially Flote, BitChute, and LBRY. I'm really excited about, I'm almost at 4,000 followers on Flote. So if we can help build that up, I really appreciate all of you guys going over there. Anyway, it's been a mess lately, and we're trying to piece the puzzle pieces together as best as we can, but bear with us as we go through this insane time in history alongside you. So anyway, I really appreciate everyone watching. Hit that like button like I said before, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for Cointree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on flote.app, flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites, because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iamband.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.